All right. Good morning, everybody. Thanks for showing up. So today's class is what is a prepper? So a lot of misconceptions. You hear the word prepper, and a lot of people think, oh, they're just a doomsday prepper. They're waiting for the end of the world, stuff like that. It's much more than that. I mean, if you go to when you go to the grocery store, you buy food for the week. What are you doing? You're prepping for the week. You go to the gas station, and instead of putting $1 worth of gas in your car, you fill your car up. What are you doing? You're prepping for the week. I mean, so the term prepper has been misstrued greatly, as far as it goes to putting up food and items like that right there for a disaster of any kind, whether it be a hurricane or a flood or a snow blizzard or the end of time, the doomsday or the apocalypse or whatever. So the class today is we're going to talk about those different scenarios, different people, different classifications of preppers. All right. All right. So what is a prepper? A prepper is one who gathers resources, makes plans, and hones skills in preparation for surviving a major disaster, catastrophic or cataclysm. All right. So basically, a prepper is a person who prepares for emergencies. So, have you ever rushed to the store, to grab some bottles of water, preparation for a storm or natural disaster? Well, you're a prepper, okay? Uh, I'm a prepper. He's a prepper. She's a prepper. There's so many out there. It's not just men are the preppers, or just women do the prepping or whatever. It's everybody. There's so many out there, and so many people don't want to talk about it either. They kind of keep it to themselves. But there's a lot more preppers out there than you would think, and so we just don't know it. But the fact is that most people prepare daily. Checking the weather, you're prepping. It talks about having an umbrella. Is it going to rain? Do I need to take an umbrella? Well, you're prepping for that. In case it does rain. So that's kind of breaking the shell of being a prepper. What a prepper is. We're all preppers in some fashion and stuff. All right. And I'm not going to sit here and just read these word for word or nothing like that. I just got them to help break out the points. All right. So, what motivates a person to prepare? All right. So, motivating factors, uh, the motivations behind prepping vary. Some individuals are driven by a sense of professional responsibility, wanting to protect their families and loved ones. Others may have a deep mistrust in the government or institutions and seek to rely solely on themselves. So this little chart right here shows when 9/11 hit. When we got attacked during 9/11, there was a massive spike of people prepared because you know everybody thought we are going to war, and this could be bad, and it could come to our soil here in the U.S. So there was a huge spike in prepping, and then just right after there was another spike during another little disaster area. But you can see it just kind of dropped back down, steadied out. Well, when COVID-19 hit, this is how comfortable people's gotten in their life. The spike was so little. I mean, it was just barely noticeable on the chart. So there's two reasons for that. One, many of the people that started prepping right here are already prepared, so you have a little bit smaller spike. That being said, and then two, the younger generations don't think anything is ever going to happen. They think, this is America. What could happen? We can't fall, we can't collapse, we can't have an economic collapse. We can't be attacked. That's their mind thing. So technically, prepping is the process of preparing for something or anything. Preppers are typically preparing for emergencies, dangers, and life changing disasters. What people prepare for depends on their perspective of danger, their location, and their circumstances. So, if you live in the city, you're going to prepare different than if you live in the country, or if you live in an urban area. Or, what are you preparing for? Are you preparing for just a couple of days without power, or are you preparing for, the zombies to come? Uh, so what are you preparing for? What do you think that might happen? Do you have a mistrust in the government? Are you just, yeah, really? Are you just, worried about, a snowstorm knocking out power or something like that? You can't get out of your house for a couple of days, or something to eat and drink. All right. So what people prepare for depends on their perspective of danger. All right. If you are an urban prepper, then you stockpile supplies and abilities to self-sustain and is typically limited. So you may focus on making the most out of space, growing gardens inside, and carrying an EDC, which is an everyday carry bag with emergency supplies. So an everyday carry bag, that's something that's kind of like a get home bag. So if you're at the office or something, you've got a little bag in your car or you carry it with you, and it's got, a couple of meals, maybe a little camping stove, a blanket, a few little things like that, just so that you can get back home. Uh, Compared to like a bug out bag is going to have several days of food, ways to purify water, uh, self defense tools, tents, sleeping bags, things like that, because you're bugging out, you're getting out of town. Uh, so urban preppers typically focus more on short-term survival and personal protection. So if you live in the urban environment, you're just thinking of the short-term stuff, the storms, the little mini disasters, a car hitting a telephone pole, knocking power out for a day or two, and stuff like that. Uh, and the personal protection, yeah, getting back to your home or apartment or whatever you live in. Uh, so if you live rurally, then your prepare habits are probably more focused on long-term survival. Your storage potentials are greater, and you can more self-sustain. So if you live on the countryside, you got a few acres, you're more apt to, okay, grow my garden, have some animals or something, uh, and put stuff up. You got space to do that as compared to living in an apartment. You don't have the space. So you got to try to conserve, just get what you need, just the essentials, stuff like that. All right. Going back to defining prepping meaning to get prepared. What prepping looks like is based on what you decide to prepare for and defining what sufficiently prepared and fully prepared looks like. Now, if you got questions, whatever, just holler out and stuff. Or if you disagree or you got a different viewpoint, let me know. Like I said, this is about, me teaching y'all and y'all teaching me something, because I'm no expert on everything. This, right, exactly. These are my perspectives. So your perspectives may be a little different, and I'd love to hear it, because I may change my perspective based on yours. All right. All right. So the different types of preppers. All right. So let's start with like the novice prepper. All right. The base survival time of a novice prepper is going to be like 1 to 7 days survival time in a major disaster. An EMP attack, an invasion, economic collapse, anything like that. The novice prepper is just getting started, so they're not ready for anything long term. So I kind of gauge it. 1 to 7 days is going to be your survival time, because you're just getting started and you don't know what you're doing. I mean, so talking about well, I mean, we all are. I don't. I've been doing this for almost 20 years, and I still consider myself. I'm not where I want to be. You never will be. Unless you're Jeff Bezos and you're building you a nice bunker over in Hawaii, or no, that's a Zuckerberg, isn't it? I get them mixed up. It's all money. Uh, so a novice prepper is someone who is new to the concept of prepping and is just beginning to take the steps to preparing for emergencies and disasters. These individuals are typically motivated by a desire to increase their self-sufficiency and protect themselves and their loved ones in an unforeseen circumstances. So again, yeah, you're just getting prepared, or you're just learning about it. So you're going to YouTube, and a video comes across. Oh, that's kind of interesting. What if? And you start thinking things like that, and then, well, maybe I ought to go ahead and put up a little bit. But I'm not going to read too much into it. I'm just going to put up a couple cans of this. Maybe get some water purifying tablets, and that's good enough. So, novice preppers may start by educating themselves on basic emergency preparedness principles, such as creating family emergency plans, assembling a basic emergency kit, and learning essential skills. So, I mean, you're going to start again. Going back to YouTube, you're going to start watching videos. You're going to go out there and see if you can whittle you something out of a piece of wood. How to start a fire with flint and steel. Yeah, right. So you're just kind of getting started into it. So that's the novice prepper. Uh, so novice preppers often focus on building a foundation of essential supplies and skills that will enable them to respond effectively to a range of potential emergencies. This may include, stockpiling food, water, medical supplies, and other necessities, as well as learning how to administer basic first aid, start a fire, or navigate in the wilderness. So yeah, these are great starting points. You want to be able to put up your food and your water, and definitely you got to get some medical supplies. I'm no nurse, so don't come to me bleeding out. I don't know how much I can help you without laying there and throwing up beside you or something. Uh, but learning the basic skills, basic first aid, how to start a fire, and then how to navigate. Uh, that's something that's greatly lost. Everybody, Google Maps, take me here, take me there. Nobody knows how to read a paper map anymore. Uh, yeah, very, very few of us know how to read a paper map anymore. So, all right. All right. So the casual prepper, somebody, something may happen. I don't know. So I kind of give them same thing, 7 days to about a month, because they just do a little bit. So the casual prepper is more of your garden variety. It's most people that call themselves prepper. It's kind of like a casual prepper. These individuals, they understand the need for preparedness and are continually evolving their definition of preparedness. So they're like, yeah, something could happen. Yeah, I've got a 50-pound bag of rice and a 20-pound bag of beans. I should be good. Okay. For how long? Exactly. So casual preppers can include people that live in the city, suburbs, or rurally. They prepare for common emergencies, unforeseen accidents, and a set of possible threats in their environment. When on foot, this individual is usually in possession of a survival bag, and when shopping, usually they stock up on some stuff. Buy a couple extra cans, beans, a couple extra cans of Campbell's soup, or rice, dry goods, pasta, stuff like that. So casual preppers make up the majority of preppers and are the most common type. Uh, they know that they need to prepare for something, just whatever, but they do it casually, just a little bit here, a little bit there. They're not taking it real serious, which, in today's economy, it is, it's very hard to do. I mean, things have gotten pretty expensive. And you've got bills, house payment, car payment, rent, kids. Oh my gosh, kids, thank you. So more advanced preppers may judge the level of preparedness that casual preppers are satisfied with. However, if you ask any advanced prepper if they are prepared, the answer is almost always not fully. So like I say, I've been doing this for 20 years. Am I where I want to be, where I think I need to be? No. I mean, every day, something will pop up in my head. Have you thought about this? What about this scenario? Or do you have this covered? What about this? So it's a constant growing. But see, like the casual prepper, like I said, they got a couple things put up, so they think they're good to go. Um, but I'm not here to judge anybody. I mean, if you're just getting started, great. Are you kind of late to the game? I think so a little bit. But are you so late that you can't make it? Absolutely not. I mean, anytime's a good time to start, preparing for stuff. You start with your basics. Kind of a little off topic here, but you start with your basics. You get your dry goods, your rice and your beans, your essentials. Way to purify water, way to carry water. Uh, you know, your basics, and then start building from that. Because just stop and think about it. If we do have a disaster and the only thing you have put up is rice and beans, I harp on rice and beans a lot, but that's the only thing you have put up. After a week of eating nothing but rice and beans, that's going to do more psychological damage on you than you think. Uh, so some spices, some other things, some freeze dried foods, noodles, pasta, bouillon cubes, Texas Pete, salt, pepper. I mean, you could right, yeah, 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 just all kinds of stuff. Ramen noodles, just something to break up the monotony of just rice and beans. I mean, if you think the disaster's coming tomorrow, and yeah, 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 go out and buy all the rice and beans you can get a hold of. Uh, and I mean, you'll survive, but you're not going to enjoy it every day. But you'll survive. But having a variety of things, that's a big deal. Uh, just imagine, you're we've had a cataclysmic disaster or something, whatever, and we're a couple months into it and stuff, and you've been out in the field plowing, getting ready for a garden by hand, just wore out, and you come in expecting, just rice and beans. But the little woman says, "Hey, guess what, honey? You get a treat tonight. You're going to get chicken flavored rice and beans." but spices and things like that is a big thing that's overlooked. It's the little things that perk you up and give you something to shoot for. All right, so the urban prepper. All right, so somebody that kind of lives more in the city life, stuff like that. 7 days to a month, kind of the same thing. Um, because it's not that they're new at it, or a casual prepper that's doing a little bit. They don't have the space. If you live in a small apartment, you can't stockpile a year's worth of food in your space and still be able to live unless you're sleeping on your buckets of food. So for the urban prepper, it's more space limiting, is what's holding you back. And I understand that fully. So, an urban prepper lives in the city and prepares for threats and dangers related to urban living and attempts to sustain in the concrete jungle. An urban prepper is an individual who actively prepares for potential emergencies or disasters while living in the urban environment. Unlike traditional preppers who may reside in rural areas, urban preppers face unique challenges due to the limited space, resources, and potential for higher population densities. Urban preppers focus on developing strategies and acquiring supplies that are tailored to their specific urban living conditions. So the urban prepper, limited space, totally different environment, living in the city as living in the countryside, more people to worry about. If a disaster happens, it's going to start emanating from the cities and working its way out, because your cities have a whole lot more population in them, a whole lot more mouths to feed. And when the grocery stores are empty, those hungry mouths are going to come looking for food. So I mean, that's a whole different challenge as far as the country living. I mean, eventually it starts in the cities and it works its way out to the countryside. But by the time it works its way out to the countryside, that population is decreased greatly because of starvation. People, um, desperate people do desperate things, and there's going to be a lot of people that lose their lives, over a can of beans. There's going to be a lot of people that lose their lives over disease, eating things they shouldn't be eating, and just robbing people, stuff like that. So the city population is going to diminish before they start moving out of the city. So if you live on the countryside, like if you live in the city of 100,000 people, by the time they realize everything's going on, and they've plundered everything in the cities, by the time they start moving out of the cities, then that 100,000 people's, you're down to 20,000 people by now. So the countryside has a little less to worry about, but than the city type people. Uh, Urban preppers prioritize adaptability and resourcefulness. They may store essential items like food and water and medical supplies in compact spaces, office ways. I was gonna say, go to the next screen, come back or something. Oh, nope, made it worse. Okay. Well, this messes up things. Urban prepper. Okay, yeah. All right. So one of the key aspects of urban prepping is establishing a network and community of like-minded individuals. Urban preppers recognize the importance of building relationships and collaborating with neighbors to ensure their collective preparedness efforts. All right. So this is kind of a two-edged sword. Um, talking with other people, like-minded people, uh, trying to build you a small group, because it's going to take a community to survive and rebuild. You're not going to be able to lone wolf it. The ones that say they're getting their bug out bag and they're going to the mountains, they're going to hunt for all their food. Yeah, they're not going to make it real long, because that person, there's a million other people that have that exact same ideal, and when they all go to the woods to survive, they might be an avid hunter, fisher, skin and gutted animal and cook it up like nothing, nobody's business. But you're in that active situation, can you really recreate that? Right, exactly. Yeah, can you recreate that type of of doing that? And then you've got to worry about your fire, smoke, other people seeing that, the smell. When you're hungry, when you hadn't eaten for a couple of days, your senses are greatly heightened. I mean, you could smell somebody cooking something or smell a fire burning from miles away that you normally wouldn't, today. So, so you're going to have to worry about everybody else that's out there in the woods with you, instead of, just the animal and wildlife. And then everybody's going to be hunting everything, and soon there won't be nothing left to hunt. Then what are you going to do? Start going after the plants. All right. Well, you're going to start going after each other. You're going to starve to death and die, and you're going to start going after each other. And you're going to come out of the woods and you're going to try to go into the towns and cities and stuff and try to find stuff. Additionally, urban preppers may develop skills such as urban gardening, water filtration techniques, and self defense strategies sustained for urban environment. Um, Again, these are my opinions and my viewpoints. Uh, if you live in the city or apartments or anything like that, your best bet is, as soon as something happens, get out of Dodge. Have somewhere planned to go. Have you a family, some family members or some friends that live in the countryside, or not in the cities. Get out of Dodge, because your cities are the first places to fall, and that's where it all, yeah, worst things happen there. If you think you're going to be safe in your little apartment, they'll just come by, knock on the door, and then keep going. No, it's not going to be that way. They're going to break in the doors. They're going to tear everything down. They're going to find anything they can useful to them and take it. So my advice, yeah, put you some stuff together, have some things together, to where you could wait out a day or two or something like that, but have plans to go somewhere else, and have your setup to match that to get you to that point. Kind of like a get home bag, but this is a, you know, get to your destination bag. 3 or 4 days worth of food, some packs of water, ways to purify water, ways to build fire, tents, sleeping bags, thermal blankets, uh, self protection tools, stuff like that to get you there, and being able to know how to navigate. If we have a big collapse, we'll just throw out examples like an EMP, and it knocks out, half the cars on the road or something. Well, you don't want to be walking down the interstate by yourself going to your destination. Uh, I mean, that's the first place I would look for stuff. I'd start going through cars and looking for people walking the roads. So you'll need to know how to navigate, from point A to point B. What are all the different ways of getting there? And what do you think would be the safest ways? And always have a plan B and a plan C and a plan D, for anything, not just traveling from getting to point A and B, but you know a meetup point, for you and your friends or your group or whatever. Have a plan A, or a meeting point A. Well, if that's compromised, then you have like a call sign or something like that. You put a big, mark on a tree or something, and then that way there, if you're kind of late to getting there, you can say, "Oh, wait a minute, there's a mark there, so this place must be compromised. Let's go to site B." That's where everybody should be at, is site B, and then have a site C. You can keep that going and stuff, but you want to have some just communication tools that only you and your group know. Does that make sense? So the rural prepper, all right. So 7 days to a year, depending on where you're at and how much you have put up. But the rural prepper, is someone that's going to have a little bit more land, more resources, a little more knowledge of how to tend to land and animals and stuff like that. So rural prepper has the advantage of land and distance from mass populations, which enables deeper levels of preparedness, homesteading, and off-gridding. So yeah, we'll get into homesteading, off-grid living, and survivalist stuff here in a little bit. But so just a rural prepper, you got 1 or 2 acres, uh, not necessarily a massive farm or anything like that. But so rural preppers are individuals who live in rural areas and actively prepare for emergencies and disasters. These individuals value self-reliance and independence, which is often easier to achieve in rural settings due to access to land and natural resources. I mean, just common sense. I mean, you got more area to plant a garden. You got more area to store stuff. You've got a barn. You can build you a shed or a little barn. You can't do that in the city if you live in an apartment, or if you live on a half-acre lot, or if you live in a development or something. HOA, yes, thank you. Oh my gosh, I'm not even gonna get on that subject. So, so rural preppers focus on skills such as gardening, hunting, food preservation. Canning food, dehydrating, um, things like that, to ensure their ability to sustain themselves during times of crisis. This may also have stockpiles of food, water, and essential supplies to last them through extended periods of isolation and disruption of services, like power, internet. Oh my gosh, I got one that's just going to die within hours of losing the internet and stuff. I pick on her a lot, but she's good. She's good. She knows what to do. Maybe. uh, you got to have a little fun. You can't be stuffy. It's serious stuff, and we got to try to take it serious, but you got to have a little fun with it too. So, in addition to practical skills and supplies, rural preppers often prioritize community building and collaboration with neighbors. They recognize the importance of forming strong relationships with fellow preppers and local residents to create a support network in time of needs. All right, so now we're gonna go down another big old rabbit trail. Groups, having a small group, having communities, stuff like that. Great. Like I was saying earlier, you're not going to lone wolf it. I mean, you're not going to. You cannot survive. You cannot stay awake 24/7 to protect what you've got and protect yourself. You can't do it. You can't sustain that. So yeah, yeah. Even if you have a dog, I mean, man's best friend, he's got to sleep too. But a group, it's going to take a group, a small community, and I emphasize the words small. I'm talking, a group of 50 to maybe 100 people, and put 100 people's pushing it. The more people you have together in a situation, the more people you put in a room, the more chances there's going to be a conflict. Somebody's going to disagree with someone. There's going to be a fight breakout. So put this in a disaster scenario. You've got the stress of the collapse. You've got the stress of that you've lost friends and family members due to this disaster. You've got the stress of trying to survive, grow food, have your food and stuff. So you've got all this pressure on you. And now you put all these people with this same pressure in a group together and tell them to survive together. It can get ugly quick. In your we'll call it a MAG group, mutually assured group, MAG, MAG, mutually assured group. That's people that's all on the same page. They're all preppers. They all you all agree the same. Y'all have the same ideals. You live in the same area, but everybody has a different skill. Uh, you're good with uh, gardening and landscaping stuff like that, so you could be kind of over the gardening. You're good mechanical. You can sit there and rebuild an engine. Wire up a house or something like that. You're a nurse. You know how to sew people up. You're coming with me. So, but everybody has a different skill set and a different priority. But there again, too, breaking that up, you can't have all the guns. Everybody else needs to have their share of weapons and ammo. You can't have all the food put up. Everybody needs to have their food for their family put up to sustain them, and then you can group it all together and share and stuff. But it has to be everybody has to be on the same page level. You've got X amount of guns and X amount of food for your family. You've got X amount for you and your family, and so forth, so on. Then you can combine it and stuff. But if you're so there's a group. I'm not going to name names. I'm not going to point out things. But there's a group in a city nearby, and they've formed this group. And in order to be part of this group, you've got to supply a 1 year supply of food to the group, an AR-15 rifle, and a 9mm and 1,000 rounds each. You have to supply this to the group to be part of the group. Okay, it sounds good. So you've got all this stuff from all these individual people, and I'm just going to throw out scenarios. So you've got this garage, and it's stocked full. There's enough food in there for 20 people for 10 years, guns and ammos and everything in the world to protect it. A crisis happens. Well, you've got to get there. Now you come walking up, you and your family, and the ones that are already there. We just don't have enough for y'all. Thanks for what you've done or whatever, but y'all need to leave. This is ours now. What if that happens? Everything that you've invested in your little group of people, friends that you thought were your friends, will now be turning on you. Right? Trust, and we go back to desperate people will do desperate things. When it comes to groups and stuff, you know, keep it small. Keep it people that you can trust, and everybody equally prepared for a disaster. Let's go on past rural prepper. So now you got the homesteader. Okay, so this is the one that's in it. All right, so 5 months to indefinite survival time. All right, so you got to put a small number on there somewhere, because if you've got a nice homestead and this little town over here knows you have a homestead, and it's just you and your family, you, your wife, two or three kids, and this town is 500 people, and they're hungry. Yeah, yeah, yeah. They're coming to the homestead. So you have something like that happen, uh, that's going to be your 5 month period. Uh, but if you've got everything set in place, everything in the order, ways to defend it, it's more low key, quiet. Nobody really knows about it. Then yeah, you've got that indefinite time. So a homesteader is a rural prepper that is generally self sufficient, but still has some dependence on the infrastructure and grid. So, a homesteader, somebody, they've got their huge garden, they've got cows, they've got goats, chickens, all this stuff going on. They've got, 5 years of canned food put up, eggs coming out the wazoo. They got guns and ammo, they got communication, comms going. So they've got it all going on, but they're still hooked up to the power grid, or they had to connect to city water, sewer, or something like that. So there's still some kind of small tie to civilization. I mean, yeah, they can go out there and dig their own septic tank, make their own outhouse, dig their own well and stuff like that. So they can get by all that electricity, that you don't have, they have the means, the skills, and the determination to do that. They'll start making their own candles out of beeswax. They'll start using oil lamps made from boiling down the fat and all that other stuff of their animals to make oil to burn in their lamps. They have that knowledge still to carry on, which a lot of knowledge has been lost. Lots and lots of knowledge has been lost over the years. Just each generation, more and more gets gone. So I mean, technology is good. Don't get me wrong, and you can use it to your advantage too in these points. Um, so you can collect hundreds and hundreds and thousands of books and stuff and store them on thumb drives or on hard disk or on tablets and stuff like that. And as long as it's not an EMP or something that destroys that device, you've got that to reference back to. Yeah, yeah. Paper books, you can't go wrong, but paper books take up space. Yeah, they take up a lot of space. I'm the same way. I want a hard copy. I want a hard copy of whatever, but I don't have the space to store, 5,000 books, on every different subject. So you got to be conservative. You got to think it through. But, technology you can use to your advantage. Just understand that if the power goes out, you're not going to have that anymore. Often associated with rural areas, of course, while individuals can have large plots of land to work with. However, urban homesteaders has also gained popularity in recent years as people find creative ways to grow their own food and live sustainably in cities. Regardless of the location, homesteaders strive to reduce their ecological footprint, conserving resources, and promote a more self reliant lifestyle. You know, cutting the chains off from the government is kind of what it's saying there. But for the most part, if the society collapsed, that they would be good. They know what to do. They know to grow their grain. They know how to dechaff it. They know how to grind it, make flour, cornmeal, make their biscuits. Cause I gotta have my biscuits. So survivalists, I kind of give them the same thing. 5 months to indefinite. So the difference between a survivalist and a homesteader. Survivalist is an advanced prepper who is prepared for the majority of threats and potential dangers. You can never say prepared for every threat because you don't know. I mean, tomorrow they may come up with some kind of new phaser ray that turns you in the dust. How you gonna fight against that? You can never be prepared for everything. They got the microwaves out now, and then they've got the ultrasonic guns. just blow your eardrums out, cook you from the inside with the microwaves. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's all real stuff. Yeah, all real things. All real stuff. But what's next? All right. Survivalists prioritize self sufficiency, adaptability, and reliance in the face of emergencies or disasters. They possess a wide range of practical skills, including wilderness survival, first aid, navigation, shelter building. That's a whole nother big old topic. Fire starting, foraging for food, what you can and cannot eat, pick and eat and stuff, hunting and self defense. All right, so this is somebody that they've taken self defense classes. Um, they they've read their herbal books, things like that. They go out into the wilderness and they put it to use. They put it to practice. You know, they'll take a vacation. Their vacation is going to the woods for 2 weeks with nothing but a backpack on. And a way to light fires, and that's it. All right, so now you've got the off-grid prepper. All right, so this is the one that's taking it further than homesteading. They have absolutely no reliance on outside resources. No, there's no power lines going. There's no phone line. There's no cell phone service. Uh, no city water, sewer, nothing like that. I mean, this person, or family, or whatever, has just totally went off grid. Uh, Almost like the Amish. I mean, they've almost completely cut off from everybody else. But look how well they thrive and stuff. They can make their own medicines. They make their own everything. They know how to churn their own butter. They know how to fix their own wagon wheel. Uh, so one of the key aspects of off-grid living is generating one's own power. We have come so accustomed to power and needing electricity. I mean, me included. You your refrigerator, your electronics, air conditioning, heat, your well pump. Everything runs on electricity. So to have a little bit of comfort in a disaster or scenario, you're 6 months into it and you're still able to make power. That's a little bit of comfort to you. To run a couple of light bulbs, to charge up a tablet that you might have, a couple hundred movies saved on or some music. That little bit of comfort. Uh, those are things that people don't think about either. The creature comforts, entertainment, board games, having some board games put up, card games, different things like that, because you're going to have to, if you're bunkered into your little hidey hole, your little room, uh, and it's you and your family, after 30 minutes, your kid's going to be driving you up the wall. I mean, I'm bored. Everybody's going to get antsy. So some form of entertainment to keep you busy, take your mind off things, stuff like that. Just things to keep in mind. But power, being able to generate your own power, the having someone capable of knowing how to do that, how electricity works, how to build all that there is going to be essential. This can be achieved through renewable energy sources like solar panels or whatever, wind turbines, hydroelectric systems. Off-grid individuals often invest in energy-efficient application appliances and implement conservation practices to minimize their energy consumption. So they'll go buy energy-efficient things like that. Running on solar panels. Where am I at? Right here. Additionally, they may use alternative methods of water supply, such as rainwater harvesting or well water, and employ composting toilets or septic systems for waste management and stuff. So, if you don't have a septic tank, septic system, running water, anything like that, and you can't poop in the same place all the time and not expect anything to happen. Disease is going to start happening. Rain's going to come, wash that around everywhere. You're going to stick your hand on the dirt, and guess what? You just got fecal matter on your hand. You're going to sit there and rub your eyes. Boom. You're going to die. Dysentery. Ain't nothing to play with. What's the next slide? Oh yeah, the doomsday prepper. Okay, so again, 5 months to indefinite. I mean, you got to give them that low number just in case. But this is the prepper that is they're ready for the apocalypse. They're ready for missiles, nuclear missiles to land. They're ready for the asteroid. They're ready for the zombies. This is the one that is hardcore. I mean, fully into it. So a doomsday prepper is an individual who actively prepares for catastrophic events that could lead to the breakdown of society as we know it. They anticipate and plan for various scenarios such as natural disasters, economic collapse, and pandemics, or even the end of the world. I need to put in there zombies because they are coming. I'm telling you. Or the aliens. The aliens and zombies, I think they're going to team up and take over.
That actually kind of fun.
You still identify as an alien? All right. Doomsday and preppers engage in a range of activities to prepare for their events. So they actually have groups of people put together, and they'll go out and do scenarios. This is kind of like the weekend trip or the week long trip in the woods to get prepared. Well, these guys here, I mean, they take it 10 steps further. I mean, they go to their compounds. They go through uh, gun scenarios. I mean, just all kinds of stuff. They're big time into it. Do right? Yeah, yeah, exactly. I mean, they got it all. They got the gas mask, the full body hazmat suits. They got you know, I mean, they got everything. They're ready. But you give them that short time frame because if somebody knows about it, yeah, if somebody knows you're a doomsday prepper, that you have all this stuff, you just painted a big target on your back.
And that's why I
Right. Bunkers are awesome. I mean, you could duck down in the ground, shut your little latch, close up in there. As long as you got a good ventilation system, you've got a power system, stuff like that, and it's you can't really tell it's there. As long as it's hidden well. Bunkers are great. I mean, if you have the money and the ingenuity and stuff to build you one or buy one or have one put in, best thing since sliced bread. All right. So, back to the doomsday guy, they got it all. I mean, they got all the first aid, they got the people ready to do this stuff. They know how to, they can set your bone and sew you back up and do brain surgery all at the same time with their eyes closed while they're hunting and stuff, gardening, hunting, alternative energy generation. They're the ones that just went all out. Again, we pick on the rich people. Um, Zuckerberg, he's building that massive compound over in Hawaii and stuff, but he's got the millions and millions of dollars to do that. I mean, underground swimming pools and just um, everything put up in the world. Cool, man. That's awesome. Uh, but in my opinion, that's awesome that he's doing that, and I give it to him for having the money and the intuitive to do that. But don't hoard it. Don't hoard it for yourself. I mean, if you're going to build something that big and that extravagant and that lavish or whatever, you know, have a plan to help others. Uh, kind of we've done answered this, why do preppers prep? we, well, that's what we've been talking about the whole time. I mean, everybody from the individual prepper or the casual prepper, that puts up a little bit, in case of a thunderstorm or, a snowstorm or, small disaster, hurricane or something like that, all the way up to the doomsday prepper. So the classification of prepper, like I said, in the beginning, it's been looked down upon. People scoff and laugh at you. Oh, you're one of them. If you say the word, I'm a prepper. Oh, you're one of them doomsday prepper. Instantly, instant classification of who you are. Well, no, I'm not a doomsday prepper, but in case something does happen, I know I got a little bit of stuff put up for me and my family. Uh, is it dumb? Is it something to make fun of? Absolutely not. I it's serious stuff. Uh, do I want it to happen? No. But am I ready for it to happen? I hope so. I've done what I can to get ready for it. Yeah, yeah. Ignore the stereotyping. You go to the family meet, dinner, and you mention something like that, and they start laughing and scoffing at you, and oh, you're such a loser, and nothing's going to happen. They're going to be the first one knocking
Run
on your
straight
door.
to you.
Be the first one. Right? Yeah, yeah.
I mean,
And it's sad. It really is. It breaks my heart because I have, you know, several family members. You know, my side, my wife's side, love to pieces, but I can't afford to put up for you too if you're making no effort. And you see, kind of step it off a little bit. I opened up a store. I'm selling this stuff. And if you're not making, I can, mother-in-law, hey, I can cut you a little deal here. Your mother-in-law, I can cut you a break. Nothing, nothing. Yeah, when you own a business of trying to help people, and they're not even coming to get it, it makes it a little easier later.